All right, everybody, welcome. We are now back in one of the newer and yet older parts of Lower Manhattan. This is Stadhuis. Please pardon me if I'm bungling your Dutch, but this was the headquarters of the old Dutch city. And unlike the English and unlike the Americans, the Dutch decided that the best place from which to govern was a pub. And I agree. We probably have most of our greatest thoughts, greatest ideas when we're either on the toilet or drinking. So the Dutch decided to embrace that, and their city hall was actually in a pub right around here, we believe. Now, what's cool about this area, and again, for those of you from European cities that have things that are thousands of years old, this is no big deal. But when this building around us was being excavated, the remains of the original Dutch fortifications were found. And they decided not only to preserve some of them to be seen by those of us who are tourists now, but they actually outlined with some paving stones some of the buildings that they found. So we're standing in what was once a pub. There were workshops and stores all around us as well. And it's understood that this was one of the headquarters of the Dutch cities of New Orange and New Amsterdam. Now, it's difficult to imagine, obviously, with all these tall buildings, but not only were these buildings significantly shorter, only about 3 stories high, but the island actually ended just on the other side of the street over there, of Water Street. It's called Water Street because it used to be water. And the landfill from all these big buildings made the island wider over the years. So we're standing in what was an old Dutch fort. And if you come and look over here, come behind me, the building over my right shoulder with the brick and the yellow trim is Francis Tavern. Francis Tavern, it's not the original one on the site. There was one there from hundreds of years before. This one was built after the fire of 1835 that destroyed much of the city south of Wall Street. But it was rebuilt because of the historical significance of that tavern. That tavern was a big headquarters of the English life in the city. And it was the headquarters of a lot of revolutionary meetings, pre-Revolutionary War, people who were going against the crown, people who were troublemakers, rabble-rousers, they met there. And sure enough, one of the main guys who was involved in the meetings in those taverns was none other than George Washington. In fact, in 1783, after the British left the island and the American colony was firmly established as a country, that's where George Washington said goodbye to his troops. And it was an incredibly emotional evening. It was said that Washington was so overcome with emotion he was unable to eat his dinner. And it was there that Washington declared his retirement in 1783. He said he was going back to his estate in Virginia to relax after having commanded the forces of the Revolutionary Army. Of course, 6 years later, he returned to New York to take the role of the President of the United States, and we'll see where that happened in just a minute. But that tavern was rebuilt as a memorial to the service of Washington to his country and of Washington's men to their country.